Richmond Raceway is expecting a bigger crowd than previous years, and Dover could be receiving the All-Star race date in 2026. Let's break it all down. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host, Alex Lambert, and we have some interesting midweek news to talk about on this Thursday night edition of Dirty Air. We're going to talk a little about Richmond being very close to being sold out, according to reports. And also, Jordan Bianchi reports that Dover could be hosting the All-Star race in 2026. Leaving North Wilkesboro and moving to Dover certainly would be controversial, I think. We'll break all of it down, a bit of a quick episode here, a midweek edition. And once again, let's start out by talking about Richmond. We'll talk about Dover in just a moment. First off, Saturday night's Cup Series race at Richmond is reportedly being very close to being sold out, according to CBS 6 in the Richmond area. Certainly exciting. I will be in attendance for the race. Now, I bought tickets for Richmond on Tuesday, and one thing I noticed was, there were not a lot of tickets left. I was worried I wasn't even going to be able to get a decent seat. It seems like the only tickets that you can get two seats close together is on the very top deck, the upper deck at Richmond Raceway. So certainly that's interesting there. You know, Richmond's one of those racetracks that has lost both of their dates, or one of their two dates, right? You know, a few racetracks have had this. Pocono's lost one, Dover's lost one. We'll talk more about them in a minute. Michigan's lost one. Now Richmond's lost one. A couple other racetracks, and you've seen those racetracks. Their one event has turned into like a big deal, right? And that's one thing that I really like. So when NASCAR took Richmond from two races to one, I really did like the move. It seemed like they were struggling with attendance. The atmosphere just wasn't there, at least watching it on TV. But now with the one date, I think the atmosphere will be there. It looks like they're going to sell a lot of those grants. I know Richmond's taken out a lot of seats. You know, they had about 110,000 seats. Now I think they're about down to like under 50, maybe under 40,000. But certainly a sellout will still be a positive for that racetrack. Hopefully when we get there, at least their one Richmond race back to, you know, a serious sporting event, right? It is the first racetrack I ever went to. I have a passion for Richmond Raceway in a sense. I know it's not the best racetrack on the schedule, but at least that big sporting event feel should be exciting on Saturday night. So I hope to do some videos from there that you guys can enjoy this week. So certainly some good news for Richmond Raceway. Like I said, you know, we can talk about the racing maybe not being great. I don't know if it's going to be great Saturday with this race car at this facility, but certainly it should be a big crowd at the racetrack on Saturday night. So that is exciting nonetheless. Now here's something that's very interesting that caught my eye maybe, you know, a few minutes ago. Jordan Bianchi reports that NASCAR is considering moving the All-Star race to Dover, and what Jordan Bianchi reports is a last-minute decision with an interview with someone from NASCAR that they are expecting to get the 2026 schedule out as early as next week. Now, that doesn't mean it will come out. Now, we seem to have this every year where the schedule's expected to come out next week. It doesn't. Things continue to change, which is fine. But, you know, it looks like we're getting closer to the schedule release, which we haven't heard a whole lot of a full schedule release yet. So that's the first time we've kind of heard a report of that. But it looks like very realistically, at least they're in talks of moving the All-Star race from North Wilkesboro to Dover. So first off, there's a few things to dissect here. First off is we'll talk a little bit about North Wilkesboro itself, right? After the North Wilkesboro race this year, I discussed it on the Dirty Air episode after the All-Star race. I thought that race deserved a point. I would love to see the 40 car field, or you know, the 36 to 40 car field on the racetrack at North Wilkesboro at one time, short track, a 400-lap race on Sunday afternoon during the day. I would love to see that. I would love to see what that would produce. I think you could get some solid racing out of that racetrack with what we've seen in the All-Star race with more race cars during the day. I would love to see that, so I would be excited to see North Wilkesboro have a cup date. Now, with that being said, I don't know if I'd want the All-Star race to be replaced by Dover, just, you know, speaking you know, for myself. A few things interesting to note about Dover is, once again, you know, they're now owned by NASCAR, the Dover racetrack, but they only have one race a season. But they've had a points race for such a long time, and I just feel like if you take that points race away, yes, I love the variety of NASCAR tracks in the schedule, but one thing I love is that at the end of the year, we can look back and these drivers were good here, and those drivers were good there. I do think if you move Dover to an all-star race event, an exhibition race event instead of a points race, I do think that takes a little bit away from Dover, like I think it's currently taken away from North Wilkesboro, just because of the one day. I would rather the All-Star race be somewhere, you can move it around for sure, but I would rather be somewhere like a Las Vegas or a Kansas, or even back to a Charlotte, where you get multiple races at that racetrack to showcase the entire point season. It's just kind of my opinion on that, just quickly looking at this situation. But certainly Dover potentially could be hosting the All-Star race. The thing to note that's interesting about the All-Star race and Dover is the All-Star race has typically been held it was on Saturday night for years, and then they just recently moved it to Sunday night. It was at Texas. You used to do this on every Saturday night at Charlotte, once they got lights since the 90s. And then you did the first ever race at night on a big mile-and-a-half racetrack was the All-Star race, right, in 92. And then you moved it to Bristol for 1 year in COVID, and then you moved it to Texas for a few years on Sunday night, and then you went to North Wilkesboro the last few years on Sunday night for the All-Star race. Dover does not have lights at the facility, so you would have to race that race on, I guess, maybe a Sunday afternoon. I think that takes a little bit away from the All-Star race as well. And once again, I don't think the All-Star race should go away. I think there's so much history, and Dale Jr. does a really good job explaining that. I think there's so much history with the All-Star race. Yes, it's been fluky. Yes, it's had some bad moments over the last 10 years, but I think if NASCAR can kind of reinvent this race, this All-Star race, it could be a fun and exciting race on the NASCAR calendar, and they've done a better job. Like the last couple seasons have been more fun to watch the All-Star race. I know we've had a couple runaway winners, but the racing was not that bad the last couple years. Good. The last couple years in the All-Star race. That's certainly exciting. But, really all I wanted to talk about on a quick episode of Dirty here, just wanted to kind of give a midweek update. Richmond being close to selling out, Dover potentially, moving to the All-Stars. Let me know what you guys, I would like to know what fans, this news just came out not that long ago, so I haven't been able to read a whole lot of comments. I would love to know what fans think about that. I think that's going to be potentially frowned upon by fans, moving the race to a Sunday at Dover. I think fans like their traditional 400-lap cup race at Dover. But let me know what you guys think below. Certainly would be interesting. And then, of course, Richmond selling out. But that's it. Really all there is to discuss on this midweek edition of Dirty Air. And, of course, let's get rowdy.